Having told us what Atma is, that which exists in all states of being, which in fact is the reason these states of being exist. There are two mantras with two very interesting examples to show that Atma Ekatvam, that there is only one Atma, although in this Jagat we perceive multiplicity. But there is only one Atma. So many examples are given. But all examples necessarily have to be from within the Jagat. That's the way we understand these examples. So the previous one we saw had to do with Prakasha. No, Agni Tattvam. Agni Tattvam is the first one of the Panchabhutas which has shape, form. Use that as the first example. Agni Tattvam is only one. There are no different Agnis. The Agni takes the form of the fuel. It could be wood, it could be anything else. It could be wax, oil, cloth, forest. So you see this Agni taking so many different shapes. From a simple candlelight, the flame of a candle is a small flame. That is the same Agni Tattva you see in the candle. And then you have, at a slightly bigger level, the diya, the lamp you light every day at the puja. It also has a burning wick. The actual burning element, in the case of the candle, is the wax. Here, the actual element that burns is the oil. If you just took the dry wick and tried to burn it, it'll get extinguished very fast. Then you have something bigger. In my childhood, we used to have kerosene stove. I don't know if many of you remember this. There also a lot of technological innovations came out. You filled kerosene in a bottom container and had a wick. And this wick could be raised or lowered to increase the size of the flame. Agni Tattva itself changes the shape depending upon how you adjust the wick. And you pressurize the kerosene using a pump. So that is another form of Agni Tattva. Somewhat bigger, large enough to cook in. Like your diya and your candle is not good enough to cook in. But this is good enough, the first one that is big enough to cook in. Thanks to this war, I don't know where this is going to end. We may all have to go back to kerosene stove. And we had another one called Nutan stove. Again, I don't know if any of you remember that. It was considered very technological advanced stove. Nutan stove. Similar principle. So we may all have to go back to that. And even if kerosene is not available, go back to wood. I don't know where we're heading. Thanks to President Trump and all this war that has really been going on for a while now. But the Newton stove had slightly different system and could get you bigger flame. Smokeless flame, they claimed. That was bigger flame. So you found that same Agni Tattvam in different shapes and sizes. Candle was a single flame. The kerosene stove had a burner. So you could actually have the flame of different shape all over, so you could heat the vessel. So did that Newton stove. And then came the gas. We didn't have gas at that time. In my childhood, I've never seen gas. Now we're talking about piped gas. All of this will stop now. Sooner or later, if this goes on, it'll all stop. Everybody bombing each other's facilities. So if they continue like this, nobody will have any oil. At least for the next several years, they can restart the whole thing. So you had this kerosene stove. Prior to that, we had wood stove, which was even bigger flame. That is another Agni Tattvam shape. Then you have ordinary fire that gets lit, and every now and then somewhere or the other building catches fire. Much bigger form of the same Agni Tattvam. And then you have these forest fires, which are much bigger and last much longer. Same Agni Tattvam, look at the way it is seen in different situations, depending upon the fuel. And of course, nowadays you see even bigger Agni Tattvam shape in the form of oil wells burning. Huge. Even to cap them, they're going to have a lot of difficulty. So the same Agni Tattvam assumes different forms. It is an indivisible Agni Tattva. But it looks as though there are many of them of different shapes and sizes. In the same way, Atma is Ekam. But it looks like there are many. It's Atma Tattvam obviously cannot be perceived. It is not available for perception, we know that. The only way we can sense it is if it is tadatmyam with Sukshma Sharira, which also has to have a Sthula Sharira. Then you see Atma. So it looks as if each Sthula Sharira with its own Sukshma Sharira has an Atma which is different from another Atma. The whole Sharira is full of Agni Tattvam. That's why the body maintains temperature. There is, of course, the Jataragni as well. The Agni that makes digestion possible. So the example is very clear. There is only one Agni Tattva, and it appears to be many different types of shapes and sizes, giving impression that there are many Agnis. There aren't. There's only one Agni Tattva. In this we can understand. In the same way, Atma is Ekam. And you see this Atma almost as if it is a different Atma in every Sharira. So through this Drishtanta, we can understand that this perception is as though perception. It's a wrong perception. That is why this example. I saw that in the Bashyam, the last word he uses, Bhashyakara, Bahishya svena abhikritena rupena, its own rupa is unchanging. Abhikritena. By that unchanging, although it's unchanging, it appears as many different ones. And he again gives one more example here, Akashavat. Again, we can understand this. Akashavat means that like space. Another very good example for us to understand that space is Akasha Tattvam is only one, indivisible, single one. But we have all different spaces, Ghatakasha, room Akasha, something else Akasha, taking the shape of the container. But Akasha doesn't really have many different Akashas, only one Akasha. You can't even cleave it and cut it. So in one word he says Akashavat. And there's another interesting word here, Bhavishya. It will also appear in the next word mantra. Bhavishya. What is Bhavishya in this context? When you are looking at whether it is Agni Tattvam or Akasha Tattvam, it looks as if it is taking the shape of the fuel in the case of Agni, or in the case of the Akasha, the container. But what is outside that? What is that container in? All Agni Tattvam. There is only one Agni Tattvam unbreakable, only one Akasha Tattvam indivisible. So it is not that there is a pot full of Akasha and then other Akasha. There is Akasha outside, there is Akasha inside, there is Akasha in between also. Everything is Akasha. In the same way, this Atma, which is only one, Ekam, how it appears to us as many. These are so important to understand, because when we get out of the class and go out and start interacting with the Jagat, we are always interacting as an individual. In the Jagat, you have to interact as an individual with his own antakarana, with his own ahankara. And it looks as if, therefore, each Atma is interacting with the rest of the Anatmas. And then it looks as if my Atma is interacting with all the other Anatmas. So his Anatma I'm dealing with as Atma, and he is dealing with his Atma as my Anatma. This has to register. Only then, it's not very easy to register. We go and have all these transactions in the world, which are necessary for Vyavaharika. At the back of the mind, will always remember that there is only one Atma. That Atma which seems to enliven every Sharira, Sthula Sukshma Sharira, which does not seem to be, is not perceivable in an inert Sharira. But that is Bahishya. It is there everywhere. There is no everywhere for Atma. There is no where for Atma. There is no location for Atma. So I can't even say everywhere. That Ekav Atma we perceive as multiple, just like we see the Agni Tattvam in different forms and shapes because the fuel, like that, in the case of the Atma, because the Upadhi differences, it looks as though there are many different Atmas. When one recognizes that, and one recognizes there's only one Atma, then this Atma Jnanam becomes easier to understand. And some point in time it will register that Atma Ekam. And if the Atma is Ekam, that Atma has to be I. Logically, there is no other possibility. So these examples are meant to give us an insight into the nature of the Atma, which has been described in the previous mantras. So, Ek Agni Tattvam appearing as many different Agnis of different shapes and sizes. In and through all of these Agni, we need to understand there's only one Agni Tattvam. In and through all the apparent Akasha, there is only one indivisible Akasha. The mantra doesn't stop there because this is an idea that needs to sink in. Yamadharmaraja takes it up, the Shruti takes it up by giving one more example. Yatha Agni Tattvam, Tatha Vayu Tattvam api. Another example. Vayu Tattvam is also there in every Sharira. Sharira is Annamaya Kosha. Physical Sharira is Annamaya Kosha. And in each of them, Vayu Tattvam exists in the form of Pranamaya Kosha. And this Vayu Tattva is everywhere. Just like space is everywhere within this. Every little cell in the Sharira, physical Sharira, has Agni, has Vayu, has Akasha. Also has Prithvi, also has Apaha. But the examples taken here are only Agni and Vayu. Akasha is mentioned by Bhashyakara. And this Vayu, it is not simply because I breathe and I can feel the breathe, and breathe goes into the lung. Science tells me it goes into the lung. It helps purify the blood and then comes out as impure Vayu. That's not true. Right through every cell, there's only Vayu. Not only Vayu, there is Vayu. And somehow it seems to take the shape of the Sharira. Because the Sukshma Sharira takes the shape of the Sharira. So this Vayu in this Sharira is the same Vayu as in the Sharira of a mosquito. Or in the Sharira of a rhinoceros. It's the same Vayu. Again, indivisible Vayu. You cannot have discrete sets of Vayu. So this also used as a Drishtanta, saying that there is only one indivisible Vayu Tattvam. And that Vayu Tattvam appears as many different Vayu Tattvam of taking the shape of that which it occupies. And also what it doesn't occupy outside. The same Vayu. Unchanging Vayu. So Bhashyakara introduces it by saying, Yatha Anya Drishtantah, Tatha Anya Drishtantah, Yatha Agni Tattvam, Tatha Vayu Tattvam as well. Tatha Anyaha Drishtantah. One more Drishtanta to make sure that we understand what is being said. This mantra is almost a repeat of the previous mantra. Except that the word Agni has been replaced by the word Vayu. Vayuryathayko bhavanam pravishtaha.
Bhuvanam pravishtaha.
Rupam rupam pratirupo babuva.
Rupam pratirupo babuva.
Ekastatha sarvabhutantaratma.
एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा
रूपम रूपम प्रतिरूपो बहिश्च
रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपबहिश्च
यथा अग्नितत्वं तथा वायुतत्वमपि एकः एकः वायुतत्वं भुवनं प्रविष्टः. Entering this bhuvanam, bhuvanam is this our earth where we exist. There is no entry. We're not asked to enter, but it is, you can call it bhuvane sthitaha maybe, what in the bhuvanam. Vayu yatha bhuvanam pravishtaha, what happens? Rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva. It seems to take different rupas. Bahurupam. In the same way, तथा च एकः आत्मा सर्वभूतांतरात्मा, the same atma in every bhuta. I would suggest we look at it as sentient bhuta and insentient bhuta. In sentient bhuta, sorry, atma's presence is palpable. In insentient atma, insentient bhuta, atma's presence is not easily seen. So, तथा एकः सर्वभूतांतरात्मा एकः आत्मा एकः यथा वायुः रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो बहिश्च प्रतिरूपो बभूव, here also रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो बभूव. It is there in many forms. And again, the mantra adds this one very simple word, Bahishcha. Same word that were there in the other one, Bahishcha. Eka tatha ekah sarvabhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva, we add from the previous sentence. Bahishcha. Also outside. The example is very simple. It's literally a repetition of the previous mantra, where we talked about Agni Tattvam. Here the Vayu Tattvam, little bit more subtle than Agni Tattvam. In fact, if you take Akasha, it's even more subtle. It's even more easy to grasp the non-divisibility of Akasha Tattvam. Agni Tattvam, it looks like discrete Agnis. Akasha, even that is not really true. Vayu is also like that. Vayu is also subtler than Agni. There are no separate Vayus. There is only one Vayu. Ekaha Vayu. Yatha ekaha Vayu, tatha sarvabhutantaratma api ekaha. Parantu rupam rupam pratirupo bhuva. Looks like it is there in different rupa in different sharira. What happened when the sharira dies? The Annamaya kosha is gone. It merges with everything else. All the bhutas. The Sukshma Sharira, which we have said is like a reflecting medium, in which prana is also there. That prana and or the prana tattvam which had taken the shape of this Sthula Sharira, travels elsewhere in search of another Sharira. If you take a balloon, for example, these days you get balloons of different shapes, all filled with air. One is round, one is oval, one has got an animal shape. What happens if you puncture the balloon? It goes flat. So interestingly, the Sharira doesn't go flat immediately. We can't say puncture the body and all the air goes out. We become flat like a balloon. We already have so many orifices. It was simply that Vayu, as we understand Vayu in the gross form, it should escape. It doesn't. But the body, once the Vayu is left, slowly deteriorates into its elements. Unlike the balloon, whatever the shape of the balloon, small balloon, big balloon, round balloon, oval balloon, animal-shaped balloon, once you puncture it, they all become flat. This is only to show that the entire Jagat, and I repeat, not only the sentient bhutas, but also the insentient bhutas, are nothing but Ishvara. Ishvara is one. You can also relate it to the fact that we also talk about so many different gods and devatas. There are not many different gods and devatas. There's only one Ishvara. Again, seems to take several rupa for our convenience. We pick one of them and say, there is my Ishta Devata. Rupam Pratirupo Bhabuva. And then, of course, we write stories about that Rupa. We have Puranas on that Rupa, childhood stories, growing up stories, valor stories, bravery stories. But essentially, there is only one Ishvara, which is non-separate from Brahman, from which I is non-separate. Atma, Ishvara, Brahman, all mean the same. It is not as if Ishvara is Brahman plus Maya. Ishvara is Brahman. Maya is a assumed figure which needs to be negated. Because Maya is Mithya. And therefore everything from Maya is Mithya. So this Pranamaya Kosha, which exists in every Annamaya Kosha and takes the shape of the Annamaya Kosha, is not different prana. There's only one prana. In the same way, there's only one Atma, and that Atma is Ishvara, Brahman, I, Aham, call it what you will. This is what the understanding has to be. How can I be any of these? Atma, what is Atma? I, Aham. Ishvara, Aham. Brahman, Aham. Omkara, Aham. Purnatvam, Aham. There's only Aham. There's nothing else. Satyam, Aham. Jnanam, Aham. Anandam, Aham. There is only. This is the thought that needs to keep running when you get into Nididhyasana mode. And that mode is a constant mode. It is not today, tomorrow, just because I sit for half an hour in a meditation. This is the thought process that has to keep going in the mind 24/7. That is why I find it becomes difficult to grasp this. It takes much more time, much more effort if we attend only a few classes in a week. And in between, we are involved in all kinds of Laukika affairs. Unavoidable. But it just makes it more difficult. Today's condition is like that. You can't go to Gurukulam and spend 12 years and say, I want to learn about self. Not everybody has that opportunity. But within the constraints of this, we have to keep reminding ourselves. Rupam Rupam Pratirupo Babhuva. All the time. And this Rupam, Atma Swarupam, and all the other as though things that exist in this Jagat, the multiplicity that we see. Earlier also we saw, he who can sees only Nanatvam continues in samsara. He who can see in and through all the Nanatvam, the Aikyam, gains the Jnana which is moksha. This knowledge of the Aikyam, again, Shastra repeatedly tries to tell us. We saw, like I said, Nanatvam, about Nanatvam we saw earlier. Here also having talked to us about Atma and the fact that Atma is, there's only one Atma. This Atma, it is associated with individual Sharira. The one that is palpable, visible, is the one that is associated with individual Sharira. And inextricably involved. If that is so, that every dosha of every Sharira, Sthula Sukshma Sharira, should also belong to this Atma. Can you imagine? I have enough problems in this Sharira. This Atma, if I am saying Ekam, then everybody's dosha is also Atma's dosha. The Atma must be full of dosha, full of problems, full of dukkha. Because we are each Sharira has a whole lot of dukkha. Each Sharira has a whole lot of doshas. And if all of them together is the one Atma, then the Atma must be to be pitied. The next mantra covers this. Talks about the fact that it is like Tamrapatra. Whatever happens, it is unaffected. And to understand that, we need to understand that this Atma is only thing that exists. Therefore, everything else that we see, that we sense, that we can perceive is non-self-existing. Therefore, anything that happens here cannot in any way affect this. They are different orders of reality. I go to sleep hungry. And then I dream, because I've been hungry when I went to sleep, that I'm sitting in a feast, eating wonderful food to my full satisfaction. And then I wake up. I find that I'm still hungry. Hey, what happened? I just ate a whole big meal, 7-course meal. Unaffected. It's not touched at all. There's no relation to the, because they're two different orders of reality. Atma is another order of reality. is the only reality, in fact. Everything else is dependent reality. This fact has to be, again, repeatedly cogitated upon. That all that I think is real, this Jagat, all the pain, all the dukkha, all the pleasures, all the thoughts, emotions, everything belongs to an order of reality, which if you want, you can call lower order of reality, a dependent order of reality. Therefore, although there is only one Atma which appears as though is many different Atmas, as we saw in the previous two mantras, that Atma is not touched by any of these. Therefore, I am untouched, asangaha. To go back to my wording, I is asangaha. There is no any one thing that affects the I. So introducing this very beautiful mantra, which is also given to us through in the form of an example, which is a good way to understand these things. Acharya introduces this verse. Can you put it on? एकस्य सर्वात्मत्वे
एकस्य सर्वात्मत्वे
संसार दुःखित्वं परस्यैव.
संसारदुःखित्वं परस्यैव.
Read that again. Samsara dukkhittvam parasyaiva syat.
संसारदुःखित्वं परस्यैव तद्दिति
Iti praptam.
प्राप्तम्
Ata idamuchyate.
अत इदम् उच्यते.
We can conclude, this is a very beautiful sentence, ekasya sarvatmatve, being the one and only indivisible Atma in every Atma, ekasya sarvatmatve samsara dukkhitvam, all the dukkhas of the samsara, parasyaiva syat, should belong to the Atma. Because only one Atma. All the dukkha of every being in this loka has to belong to that one indivisible Atma. If this kind of doubt comes, this kind of doubt is possible. Iti praptam, that is the conclusion we might reach. All these mantras which said there is only one Atma, it looks as though there are many Atmas. All right, I accept that. But I also know that every being has a lot of dukkha, samsara dukkha. And if there is only one Atma, all these dukkha should belong to the Atma. What a dukhi Atma it should be. I am bad enough in the form that I think I am. Atma must be terrible. To clear this, Atha idam uchyate. It is therefore said by the mantra to clear this doubt. Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshuhu.
सूर्यो यथा सर्वलोकस्य
चक्षुः
न लिप्यते चाक्षुषैर् बाह्यदोषैः.
न लिप्यते चक्षुषैर्बाह्यदोषैः.
एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा.
एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा.
न लिप्यते लोकदुःखेन बाह्यः.
न लिप्यते लोकदुःखेन बाह्यः.
Beautiful example of the sun. The sun, there's only one sun. It lights up everything. It is the one sun which provides the light to make the eyes see everything. And it is the one sun that makes the eye see not only good things, but also unpleasant things. It is the one sun which, when you're walking on the road, you might see dirty, slushy water ahead of you. Or if you're in one of these Oscar awards or whatever, if you're a big shot, you might say red carpet. One is nice, one is not so nice. Both are seen, and both are made possible to be seen by one, by that one sun. Eka Surya. It makes it possible. It does not distinguish between the good things and the bad things. Here, for the moment, this mantra doesn't worry about the good things. The good thing is very good, let it be. But it is the same sun which makes you see all the not nice things. Adharma happening around you. Makes you see that. Not a nice thing to see. Adharma happening in small, small things in the road and you don't do anything about it. Makes you see. All the dukkha around you, like Buddha, went around seeing all the dukkhas in the world. Death, old age, disease, all of that, which is what drove him to this. All that the sun shows you. Sun becomes the eyes for the world. In fact, sun is called the Devata for eyes, Samashti. And yet, while my eyes might get problems, eye itself may get a problem because there may be cataract, there may be glaucoma. The object eye seeing also may be a problem. All of it is revealed by the sun. Sun as the eye of the world, if you want, shows us all kinds of things, including a whole lot of things that are not nice. But does anything of this not nice stick to the sun? It might stick to the individual. The eye which is seeing the not nice thing, one might express disgust. But it does not affect the sun. What a beautiful example. We can relate to this. No? Sun reveals everything. Sun reveals an extremely bad person, a terrorist. It gives light to the terrorist also. It gives light to the great scientist also. It gives light to somebody who does a lot of social work. It gives light to somebody who steals. It is the same sun given to everybody. No difference. Does that mean that all the negatives that we see in the world belong to the sun? Unaffected. So is it Yatha Surya Sarvalokasya Sarva Prakasha. Sarva Prakasha you have to add. Sarvalokasya Sarva Prakasha Chakshuhu sun, being the eye of the world. Sakshusaihi Bahya Doshaihi Chakshusaihi, of the Chakshus. Chakshus is the dhatu, is not the pratibhajatu. Of the Chakshuhu. Chakshuhu. Shashti. Of the eye, Bahya Doshaihi. All of the doshas in the eye, outside the eye, everything doesn't attach to the sun. Na lipyate. Sun is sun. Nothing will not affect the sun because it lights up a dirty thing or a bad person. Bad person is a very bad example. A terrorist. But he doesn't become a terrorist because he lights up a terrorist, helps a terrorist. Sun doesn't become a terrorist. Nor does the sun become a very pious soul because it lights up also a pious person. Unaffected. Here we focus on dosha. Chakrushaihi bahya doshaihi na lipyate. Does not get linked to the sun. In the same way, tatha cha ekah sarvabhutantaratma. There's only one Atma, we proved it in the last 2 mantras. Sarvabhutantaratma ekah. But the loka is full of dukkha, full of doshas. Loka dukkhena na lipyate. Bahyaha. It is unaffected. Just as the sun is unaffected by all that it lights up. It is not a samashti of all the doshas belong to the sun. Nothing, just does a job of lighting it up, being the eye of the Jagat. The same way, Atma, although is only one, appears as many, each one attached to a Sharira, Sthula, Shukshma Sharira, all of which have lot of dukkha. None of the dukkha attaches itself to the Atma. Otherwise, you will have an Atma which will all have to go and help. A pitiable Atma. Atma is unaffected. There's a little bit more Bashyam in this than in the previous mantra. Let's read the Bashyam. Suryah yatha
सूर्यः यथा
Chakshusha alokena upakaram kurvan
चक्षुषः
आलोकेन
आलोकेन
उपकारं
उपकारं
कुर्वन्
कुर्वन्
Mutra purishadi ashuchihi prakashanena
मूत्रपुरुषादि
मूत्रपुरुष्यादि अशुचिः प्रकाशनेन
आशनेन
Darshinaha sarvalokasya chakshuhu
तद्दर्शिनः
तद्दर्शिनः
सर्वलोकस्य
चक्षुरपि
चक्षुः
sarvalokasya chakshuhu api san
अपि सन्
अपि सन्
तन्न
तन्न
अपि
na lipyate chakshushaihi
न
न
लिप्यते
लिप्यते
चक्षुषैः
चाक्षुषैः
ashuchyadi darshan nimittaihi
अशुच्यादि
अशुच्यादि
अशुच्यादिदर्शननिमित्तैः
दर्शन निमित्तैः
adhyatmikaihi papadoshaihi
आध्यात्मिकैः
आध्यात्मिकैः
पापदोषैः
पापदोषैः
बाह्यैश्च अशुच्यादि संसर्गदोषैः
बाह्यैश्च
बाह्यैश्च
अशुच्यादि
दोषैः
संसर्गदोषैः
संसर्गदोषैः
एकः सन्
एकः
एकः
सन्
सन्
तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा
तथा
सर्वभूतान्तर आत्मा
सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा
न लिप्यते लोकदुःखेन बाह्यः
न
न
लिप्यते
लिप्यते
लोकदुःखेन
लोकदुःखेन
बाह्यः
बाह्यः
Bhattakara has expanded on this same thing a little bit more, but I think it's very clear. We will read and look at what Bhattakara has to say a little bit more carefully, although I think this is pretty much straightforward. There's not much to really go into details in this. He uses some, and then he uses also certain examples. All kinds of examples that we see. Rajya Sarpa is a very common example we see. Similarly, shell and mother of pearl and silver we see. Mirage in the desert we see. Akasha and Ashuddhi we see. None of these actually belong to the Adhisthana. The fearsomeness of the snake does not belong to the rope. It causes fear, the snake does not belong to the rope. And yet it seems to cause fear. The water you see in the mirage in the desert does not belong to the desert. There's no water there. So all those examples are given to help us understand this mantra. Like I said, it's pretty clear, but repeated explanations or examples hopefully make it easier for you to understand. We will do that tomorrow. We'll do the Bashyam tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you.
धन्यवादाः नमस्कारः पुनः मिलामः
ओम स्वामी जी।